Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for permitting me to comment on the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation budget for the year 2017. I first and foremost want to thank the Honorable Minister and his staff for doing a very good presentation during the committee meeting. Indeed, they exude a lot of confidence, and I believe that given the appropriate resources, they should be able to deliver. Mr. Speaker, during the committee meeting, it came to light that most of the scientists across board, that is from across all the agencies, were aging, and there was the need to recruit new staff. Indeed, they pleaded with Parliament that we should assist them get the Ministry of Finance to approve their desire to recruit new staff. And if you take the situation, the Biosafety Regulatory Authority, it was a one-man agency. The director said he's the only paid employee of that agency. And so there's the urgent need to assist him recruit critical staff. Having said this, Mr. Speaker, I agree with our chairman, our respected chairman, Honorable Ejakun, that yes, there was an increase in the budget compared to 2016, an increase of 27.33%, and that is good. But taking a second look at it, Mr. Speaker, this increase was due to a projected figure, an increase in the projected figure for the GOG funds and then the donor funds. If you look at the GOG, there was an increase of 22%, and with the donor funds, there was an increase of 366%. Mr. Speaker, this is a country that is talking about weaning ourselves from aid, and in one agency, we see an increase of about 366%. But I think the people were happy. I mean, the people from the ministry, they were happy, but not to that extent. And that is because of the reliability of the funds. If you look at the IGF, it was kept at 66%. And we have the IGF going down from 85,648,279 to 56,688,121. That was quite a big decrease. And the complaint was that they depended so much on the IGF. I mean, if you take the ministry, the agency, EPA, for instance, the GOG allocation for goods and services for last year, the variance stood at 85%. That is to say, only 15% of the allocation for goods and services for EPA was given to them. I'm hoping that this year the ministry will do better than last year. There's a new minister, there's a new government, and we hope that they will be able to do better than last year. But all the same, Mr. Speaker, the issue at stake is that the IGF, you see, we don't have a donor funds that has increased that much. That is the projection. I don't know how dependable this fund is, but like all other speakers have been saying, the IGF that has been reduced that much for the ministry is not good enough. because they depend on it. If you take APA, for example, they are rolling out district offices because of Galamsey, as the other speaker said. And sometimes, even before the staff are made permanent, there's the need to give them some form of motivation or allowances. And all this, I believe that they come from the IGF. And if we have a situation where the IGF is capped at 66% and therefore reduced as compared to all other figures, indeed, it is not good enough for the ministry. And so I call on the Ministry of Finance to take a second look at it. Once again, I want to congratulate the minister and his directors, my committee chairman, and all committee members for the good work that we've done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable. We have an understatement which stands in the name of the Honorable Member for Nabdam on the current meningitis issue.
I'm grateful to Mr. Speaker for accepting my statement on the current situation of meningitis in the country. Mr. Speaker, this statement has been necessitated by the reported death of 58 people from meningitis in the Upper East region, where my constituency, Nabdam, is located. Also, 4 students in Kumasi Academy High School also died under similar circumstances. Mr. Speaker, in our neighbor country, Nigeria, over 300 deaths has already been recorded due to meningitis. And it is said in an African proverb that when your neighbor's beard is burning, you better put water by your own beard. Mr. Speaker, meningitis is the inflammation of the meninges, the covering of the brain, and spinal cord. It is most often caused by infection, viral, fungal, or bacterial. Bacterial meningitis is caused by several bacterial pathogens, but Neisseria meningitidis, Streptococcus pneumonia, and Haemophilus influenza type B represent the triad, causing over 80% of all cases of bacterial meningitis. Mr. Speaker, bacterial meningitis is airborne. That is, it comes out when you cough, you sneeze, or you breathe out, and enters the body in the form of an aerosol or droplet transmission through the nose, the ears, and then the throat. Mr. Speaker, this sickness starts with symptoms such as headache, fever, malaise, and vomiting, and can be mistaken for any febrile illness. That is, it can be mistaken for malaria, simple cold, or even typhoid fever. However, in some few hours' time, the patient's condition worsens, and he develops neck stiffness. Indeed, the triad of headache, fever, and neck stiffness is preliminary diagnostic of meningitis. At the hospital, the doctor can elicit some extra signs, including Koenig sign, to confirm the diagnosis. Also, various laboratory tests can be done, including an examination of the cerebrospinal fluid. Mr. Speaker, meningitis without adequate treatment is always almost fatal. However, there are currently very potent antibiotics such as ceftriaxone, chloramphenicol, Crispen, etc., which can be used in cases of early diagnosis. Mr. Speaker, the spread of the disease occurs faster in areas where people mass up or are of close proximity to one another. These include school dormitories, churches, mosques, funeral grounds, even parliament. If we crowd up, such areas should be well ventilated. The heat wave, as a result of the equinox, the drought, the deforestation, and climate change, will also facilitate the spread of the disease. The citizens are therefore encouraged to drink copious quantities of water. The government is also advised to be epidemiologically alert and to start considering the administration of vaccine to the high-risk groups. It is worth noting that samples have been taken to the Noguchi Memorial Research Institute to identify the causative agent. The last, but not the least, is the need to carry out extensive education of the citizenry to enable them report early to health facilities and also avoid overcrowding. I wish to express my sincere condolences to the bereaved family or bereaved families, especially those of the students who died in Kumasi Academy High School. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm done.
Thank you very much, Honorable. The Honorable Dr. Nawaane. Honorable Dr. Nawaane, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Answer to please capture all these in their entirety.
Mr. Speaker, World Environment Day is the biggest annual event for positive environmental action and takes place on the 5th of June. The World Environment Day, also known as the Earth Day, has reached its current status as the largest secular observance in the world and is celebrated by over 1 billion people every year. It is a day of action that changes human behavior and provokes policy behavior and policy changes. Mr. Speaker, the theme for 2017 is connecting people to nature. In the city and on land, from the poles to the equator. This year's host country is Canada, and they chose the theme, and all over the planet, we will be celebrating it together. Mr. Speaker, connecting people to nature, the theme for this year's celebration implies us to get outdoors into nature, to appreciate the beauty and its importance, and to take forward the call to protect the earth that we share. This year's theme invites us to think about how we are part of nature and how intimately we are dependent on it. It challenges us to find fun and exciting ways to appreciate and cherish this vital relationship. Mr. Speaker, connecting people to nature is a call to ecotourism. Therefore, in Ghana, we expect that on Monday, people should be visiting places like the Ebre Botanical Gardens, the Efo Gardens, and other parks in the capital. In Kumasi, we expect that the Red Trail Park, built by the Metropolitan Assembly, should be a place that people should visit. In fact, when you're going there, go there with your children. Students can go there. We expect senior citizens to be able to make it to the place and enjoy themselves. There are parks over there. There are beautiful gardens. There are places where even children can play. Beautiful flowers to observe. And we expect that all of us should patronize. We are going to have in Ghana here, I think there's a program at Chebi that we expect that we should all be there and patronize the event. We also have very nice places like the Paga Pond at Navrongo, the Kekum Canopy Walkway, where you can observe the flora and then the fauna. Very, very beautiful environment. We have the Mole Park, where you can observe the antelopes, the lions, and of course, the elephants. We will be able to observe them too over there. And the baboons. Mr. Speaker, on this day of connecting people to nature, Ghanaians are called upon to visit places earmarked for ecotourism.
Honorable, you conclude.
The Minister of Tourism is calling us to patronize all these places in order to boost domestic tourism. But, Mr. Speaker, considering the danger involved in going to some of these places, how do we actually go to all these places? I'm referring to the case of Bomso Canopy Walkway accident, where 20 people got injured. And of course, the Kintampo waterfall disaster, which claimed the life of 20 people and then injured about 22 people. Mr. Speaker, this is a sad event. I'm trying to recollect them, but in actual fact, I'm just trying to remind us that we can do better than what we are doing. And in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, there should the menace of Galamsey, and then how after Galamsey and small-scale mining we are left with.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Honorable Emmanuel Ejaku.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Amen.
Honorable members, we have another statement on family planning and allied issues, which stands in the name of the Honorable Member for Nabdam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to make this all-important statement on the World Population Day that is scheduled for the 11th of July on the theme Family Planning, Empowering People, Developing Nations. Mr. Speaker, since 1989, 11th of July is commemorated as the World Population Day by Resolution 45/216 of December 1990. The United Nations General Assembly decided to continue observing World Population Day to stimulate discussions on the critical issues of population, including its relation with the environment and development. The recent rapid increase in human population over the past 3 centuries has raised concerns that the planet Earth may not be able to sustain present or future numbers of inhabitants. At the beginning of the 19th century, during the Industrial Revolution, the world population grew significantly from 250 million to 1 billion. Mr. Speaker, also since 1950, due to medical advancement and an increase in agricultural production, we've seen a dramatic growth in the world population. At the turn of the 20th century, the world population was estimated as at 1.6 billion people. By 1940, it stood at 2.3 billion people. Currently, UN Population Assessment report estimates the world population as 7.5 billion. It is expected to be 9 billion by 2050 and 15 billion by 2100. Mr. Speaker, the concept of overpopulation with its associated problems such as poverty, underdevelopment, unemployment, global warming, pollution, and deforestation made intellectuals such as Thomas Malthus to predict that mankind will outgrow its available resources. They therefore thought that wars, famine, and other calamities were natural interventions to reduce population. Indeed, Malthus postulated that there's a constant tendency in all animated life to increase beyond the nourishment for it, so that where the means of subsistence increases, population invariably increases unless prevented by external factors such as famine, wars, earthquake, disease, and plagues. Mr. Speaker, there is no need for natural disasters and calamities to control population for us. The antidote is in family planning. The family planning program has decreased the fertility rate of women and enabled the contraceptive prevalence rate to increase. It is therefore not surprising that the theme for this year's celebration is family planning, empowering people, developing nations. Mr. Speaker, the World Population Day this year coincides with the Family Planning Summit expected to take place in London. The UK Department for International Development will co-host the Global Summit with the United Nations Population Fund, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, United States Agency for International Development, and Global Affairs Canada. There are also national programs on this day which seeks to focus attention on population issues. The Family Planning Summit will enable stakeholders to provide a platform for donors to complement and commit themselves to assist poor but needy countries find financial solutions to address the shortfall in the supply of contraceptives. It will also enable the family planning community to share experiences and display technical innovations that have the potential to accelerate progress in family planning. This can be achieved through short films, data visualization, and other dynamic storytelling tools. Mr. Speaker, an estimated 225 million women in developing countries who want to delay or stop childbearing are not using any method of contraception. The reason for this include cultural and religious reasons, lack of information, and limited access to contraception, and lack of cooperation from their male partners. The range of contraceptive methods over the last few decades have been increasing. They include the condoms, the hormonal preparations, the female hormonal preparations. They can be in the form of pills or injections, intrauterine devices. We have got Nabdam insertions that we can use. They last for about 5 years. And then there's even a permanent method of contraception, that is the mini laparotomy with bilateral tubal ligation. I want to remind you that there's also the standard method, or what we call the natural method, or the calendar method, that the women can track their fertility days and avoid sex on that day. And also, for the men to also remind ourselves of what we call the male sterilization or vasectomy. Please let us remember that vasectomy is not the same thing as castration. It's not the same thing as castration. Mr. Speaker, family planning is key to slowing unsustainable population growth and the resulting negative impact on the economy, environment, and national development effort. For the first time in history, 300 million women and girls across 69 developing countries are now using modern contraceptives. This has led to the prevention of 82 million unwanted pregnancies, 25 million unsafe abortions, and 125,000 maternal deaths. Mr. Speaker, access to voluntary family planning is a human right. It is also central to gender equality and women empowerment, and it's a key factor in reducing poverty. In Ghana, family planning is prioritized as a key strategy for addressing critical socio-economic issues. Evidence from data since 1988 suggests a sluggish performance in the family planning programming. Between 1988 and 2014, the use of oral contraceptives almost doubled from 13% to 22%. Also, total fertility rate dropped from 6.4% to 4% in 2008 and marginally increased to 4.2% in 2014. The contraceptive prevalence rate fluctuated from 19% in 2003, decreasing to 17% in 2008, and increasing to 22% in 2014. Therefore, in Ghana, the use of family planning methods is less than desired, despite the high level of universal knowledge and awareness. Indeed, governments and other stakeholders have invested heavily in family planning without achieving marked and sustained improvement in its family planning indicators. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, there is the need to carry out a comprehensive sexuality education as a channel for information for young people. Since faith, religious beliefs, and cultural practices also influence family planning, we need to explore culturally sensitive approaches for the different populations. Our family planning program is highly dependent on donor financing. It is time the government of Ghana show commitment by allocating adequate budgetary funds to ensure an uninterrupted implementation of the program. There are instances where women who are on hormonal contraceptives report to the family planning providers only to be told that they are out of stock. Finally, Mr. Speaker, our country, Ghana, needs an integrated and coordinated family planning program, starting with a critical assessment of the strategies that work, setting of realistic targets, and the institutionalization of a multi-sectorial management arrangement to facilitate the effective implementation of the family planning program to achieve an increase in contraceptive prevalence rate and a reduction in the total fertility rate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
There are 4 contributors.
Allow the medical officer.
Very well. Okay, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to associate myself with the makers of the statement and would wish to state that Honourable Pukwasoi's statement is well researched. I want to thank you very much for that. And I want to associate myself with that part that says that the extended family system, which we practice in Ghana and Africa as a whole, indeed is superior to that of the Europeans. But unfortunately, over a period of time, it appears we are shifting away from our family and the extended family system, where the children, the nephews, the nieces used to take care of the elderly. Indeed, we need to go back to it. But before we can do that, I also advise parents to take very good care of their children in terms of education and everything, because that is our future. That is the way the African culture is. And that aspect, we don't need to sacrifice it for any other thing.
Honourable Member, may I jolt your opinion? Is it not the case that the more enlightened your children become, the more lonely you become?
Mr. Speaker, there can always be a very good arrangement. And it is not only your children that you've got to take care of. When I talk of your family, I'm talking of the extended family. Yes, at one stage you might be taking care of your children, but it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. At a certain stage, you'll be taking care of your nieces, your nephews. It steps on until you start taking care of sometimes even your grandchildren. So you need to take care of a lot of people. Indeed, if you are fortunate to be well-to-do, please don't stop taking care of all your children, but other ones as well. The second aspect that I would wish to mention that the aging process is different for everybody. It can be your eyes, cataract or something, then you become blind. It can be your knees. In medicine, we say arthritis. And you will find it difficult to walk. You might need a walking stick. It can be your stomach. The cancers and everything, yes, they can cause you stomach trouble. It can be your chest, the pneumonia, the heart disease, and all those things. But the problem we have in this country, Mr. Speaker, is that when it involves your head, there's always a very big problem. Sometimes in the form of depression, sometimes as Alzheimer's disease, sometimes in the form of dementia, and so many other forms. And when you start talking, let me use the word by heart, or you start behaving abnormally. Thank you very much. Somebody has answered my question. Where I'm driving to. Yes, you can be branded as a witch and be beaten to death. That is the aging process that has happened to you. That's the way yours have gone through. And you'll be branded as a witch or a wizard. Mr. Speaker, in Ghana, even in this 2017, we have cases like that, where suspected witches and wizards, usually it is the aged. I have never seen beautiful ladies or young men like the ladies and men that we have in this chamber being branded as witches and wizards. Always it is the aged that due to some mental problem, they either stay alone or with some children they are not taking very good care of, or they have problems with their feeding. And so they are wasted. And indeed, sometimes when they point to you that this is a witch or a wizard, you are forced to, from the physical appearance, to believe or think that, yes, that person is a witch or a wizard. We need a differential diagnosis between these mental conditions and who is a witch and a wizard. It's very difficult. Unless people can also say they also have 4 eyes, it is difficult for the ordinary man to say that somebody is a witch or a wizard. So I'm appealing to society that instant justice or mob injustice that we have been meting out to these people should stop. Because once upon a time, they were also very young like us, very nice people. They helped us, and now that because of being old and having something to do with their heads, their problem is with the head, mental problem. This sort of people are branded as witches and wizards, and they are beaten sometimes to death. So I'll call also on the health system. If you look around the country, you only have the mental hospitals located, one in Cape Coast, I think one in Accra, 2 in Accra, 1 in Cape Coast. In the north, we don't have the mental hospitals. There's none over there. And that is where the witches and wizards, they are more over there, from the public assessment. So we need a hospital in the north, a mental hospital in the north, to admit such people and treat them. And I believe that cases of witches and wizards will go down. There is an act, Act 64 of the Mental Health Act 2012. It defines clearly that such people can be taken on. they can be fined to the tune of even 6,000 Ghana cedis or a term of imprisonment. So this is a warning to our pastors and other people who I don't know whether they can really cure them or not. They should take note that the law is not always on their side. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Nishpon. Yeah. Nishpon. Main constituency. Also.
Yes, honorable members, we're now going to give opportunity to the last person according to what I have here, who is in the person of Honorable Dr. Mark Nawaane. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for permitting me to contribute and comment on the budget statement and economic policy of the government of Ghana 2018 financial year. Right, Honorable Speaker, when it comes to governance, I think that the NDC does very well. I know my colleagues on the other side always think that they are good managers of the economy. But governance also involves managing the economy. And I believe that we are very good so far as it comes to governance. Mr. Speaker, if you analyze the budget allocated to the Environment, Science and Technology Ministry, to cut it short, Mesty, you can divide it into two. One aspect has to do with the compensation, and then the other half has to do with the capital expenditure, goods and services. Now, if you take the compensation out and you look at the capital expenditure, goods and services, that is the tools that they need to work with, there is a slash by almost 40%. And so you appoint so many people and you cut down what they are supposed to work with by 40%. So I expected my other colleagues to mention this aspect of it. Say that if we will plead with Parliament to do something about it, then we do it. Now, if we come to the compensation, it is true that wages and salaries have increased. That item has increased by 76%. But we should not be happy with it because in the budget statement, the government is complaining about it. They are complaining that the expenditure is too high. Now let's open to page 156, paragraph 857. And let's look at what the government is saying. That 8 years after implementation of the single spine policy, it has become necessary to review the policy to ascertain if it has achieved its objective to pay wages that can attract and retain staff. Now let's go to point 3. Under the paragraph 857, that they will set up a committee to examine the sustainability of the current pay structure. That is, a committee is going to be set up, a 12-member advisory committee is going to be set up to examine the sustainability of the current pay structure. Now, if you go to point 6, and make proposals and recommendations with a view to addressing the gaps in the single spine salary structure. Mr. Speaker, when you want to kill a dog, the first thing you've got to do is to give it a bad name. And I'm afraid for this country, Mr. Speaker, that this single spine pay structure that was implemented with difficulty by the NDC government, we swallowed a bitter pill. By the time we implemented a single spine salary, we have consumed about 52% of the fiscal space that was available. Indeed, the implementation of the single spine salary is more than, or was even much more difficult than your free, or than the free SHS policy. And yet, the government, under His Excellency, Nana Akufo-Addo Dankwa, you know, in the budget, is hiding this item here.
Honorable member, what is the name of the president?
Nana Akufo-Addo. Nana Akufo-Addo Dankwa. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Yeah, Nana.
Yes.
Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Yeah.
Yes, now you get it right. Honorable members, he's now gotten it right. So
Yeah.
let's proceed.
Okay, His Excellency. You know, it is sitting down here that he's going to set up a committee to review this single spine salary structure. My brothers and sisters, let us not be happy. Let us not be happy. The workers of Ghana will not be happy. We implemented this particular policy with difficulty, and President Mahama continued it, and I'm appealing to the President to continue to implement the single spine salary structure. The problems we have in this country, Mr. Speaker, as regards our expenditures, have to do with the 110 ministers that they have appointed. Let us look at the thing holistically. Now let's open again to the budget statement and look at the item government machinery. Government machinery. I'm referring to page 185. Page 185, number 1, Office of Government Machinery. Ceiling of staff. Ceiling of staff. We have 1,697 workers supposed to be at the Faster House. 1,697 at the Faster House. Why so? Mr. Speaker, if you compare it with other ministries, like the Electoral Commission, if you compare it with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, if you compare it with it with the Ministry of Energy, all these figures, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we've got 514, as against 1,697 at the Faster House. What are they doing over there? This is 200% more than when Kufuor was president. This is 300% more than when Mahama was there. And yet we complain that the salary bill has gone up. I mean, we should be fair. You can't eat your cake and have it. And if you cannot do your farming, don't blame the cutlass or the hoe. We need to look at this aspect. 110 ministers an office of government machinery that is having 1,697, almost 1,700 workers there, and see whether we can bring out a salary bill and not complain that the bill is too much and that the ordinary worker, we are going to review single spine, and whenever over here in Ghana we talk of reviewing, most often it is reviewing to the negative, reviewing to the disadvantage of the worker.
Honorable member, you may conclude.
Mr. Speaker, the Galamsey menace is still ongoing. The government has employed about 400 military men into the bush, and recently they are going to increase the number, I understand, and their mandate has been extended by 3 months. And, Mr. Speaker, the issue is that this government is practically repeating the mistakes, if any, that the NDC government did. And it is even worse than that, because you can send the whole army to the bush, but they cannot stop Galamsey. What we need to do is this. We need to have a roadmap that is going to lay out clearly when small-scale mining is going to resume. I think that it is this aspect that will bring peace, that will bring harmony, that will bring development to Ghana. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member.
Yes, Zaroma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First, I want to thank the Minister of Health for coming before the House. I think he said he will come on Thursday, but today is Wednesday and he's in. That tells us that he's really committed to get to the bottom of this issue. And I want to express my sincere condolences to the bereaved family and hope that God gives them the strength in this trying moment. Mr. Speaker, the Minister in his speech laid out all the processes that is going on, and I want to express my sincere thanks to him, and then the Ministry of Health, the Ghana Health Services, for the surveillance that is going on, samples being taken to Noguchi Research Center, meetings that have been held between the Ministry of Health, the school authorities, the students, and then the parents, an amount of about 100,000 Ghana cedis that has been given for the care of possibly those hospitalized, and the teams that are being sent over there. But, Mr. Speaker, these are all the processes that are taking place because it has recurred. And my beef here, my problem here, what I'm not happy about is that it occurred around March, April, or May. Around that time, we had a similar incident occurring in the same school. The locus is the same thing. The symptoms were the same. And it appeared that we handled it somewhere along the line, hibernated, and appeared again in 7-8 months with the same problem. Mr. Speaker, I was on the floor around that time and made a statement on meningitis. I advised the authority the possible steps that, that could be taken. That includes the vaccination, possibly attending less funerals, decongestion, drinking a lot of water, and all this advice that I gave, I don't know what happened. I know the statement was referred to the Committee of Health, and as I asked my colleagues, they also don't know what happened. And we are back again on this same issue. Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of questions that we need to ask under these circumstances. And the questions are, what happened? Were the students vaccinated when it occurred that time? What about those who were being admitted to Form 1? Because I understand that some of the first-year students who were even admitted, who were not there that time when the first incident occurred, are also dying. So whether when they were being admitted, anybody remembered to vaccinate them, or was there not the need? Mr. Speaker, the school, was it fumigated or some form of disinfection? Did it take place over there? What type of education took place during the first incident? We should not be happy. We should not be happy because it is the second time. And not that what is happening now, something is happening and we are not happy. I'm very grateful for all the steps that are being taken. But the fact that it is the second time, the fact that the first time we did not learn anything from it, the fact that we are still looking for diagnosis. Because the symptoms appear to be the same. It is still the same school. Somebody was trying to trace the issue from the north. It is not the case. If the north gets it, it's possibly that it has moved from Kumasi Academy to the north, and not the north to the south. Of course, we all agree that the meningitis belt is moving down because of desertification and deforestation. So that belt is moving down. So we shouldn't be surprised. The last time it occurred, it was Banahafu that had the highest, and not even the northern region. And so this time...
Honorable Member, can we
yes.
restrict ourselves to the statement?
Yeah, this time...
We know you have information, but this is not the time.
Honorable Minister, I want to appeal to you. Let us not cut the tree in the middle. Let us get to the root cause of it. And let us pray that this incident become the last of all of them. I want to thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
The next question is in the name of Dr. Nawaane of Nabdam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, I rise to ask you, to ask the Minister for Health when district hospital services will be provided in the Nabdam district.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, again, the ministry is aware that the population of Nabdam is growing. And as part of our policy, it will require a much wider service package than it has currently. This means that the health center will need to be upgraded to a hospital so as to attract the required facilities and staff. Mr. Speaker, this has already been considered in the 4-year capital investment plan, and the ministry has started negotiations for concessionary funding towards its implementation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, no problem.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. In your answer, you stated that the health center would need to be upgraded to a hospital. What work do we need to do to the Nangodi Health Center to be upgraded to a hospital? Or the Nabdam, yes, that's the capital, Nangodi.
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thought I was coming to answer a question on Nabdam. And looks like shifting to Nadoli.
Honorable Minister, Nabdam is the constituency and Nangori is the capital, and it is the upgradement of, we don't have any district services, hospital services, that is grade C and D. We don't have it in the whole district.
Mr. Speaker, we have a standard definition of what a hospital is. And therefore, we will go and inspect what facilities we have in the existing health center and add on to make it a complete district hospital. If what we have at the moment wouldn't serve any serious purpose by the nature of the population and what we have in Nabdam, then even those ones will have to be refurbished and expanded to give it a full complement of what we describe as a district hospital at Nabdam. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Your last follow-up question, please.
Honorable Minister, in your answer, you stated that there's negotiations for a concessionary loan. Please, what stage has it gotten to?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my colleague will be aware that the Ministry of Finance is actually working with some guidelines now by virtue of the debt situation that we have in our country. So first, they will do an assessment to find out the proposals we send to them, whether the facility we want them to engage in will be concessionary or not. Having finished that, they will also want to check whether we have some little fiscal space that will enable us take the loan, so that we don't go beyond the threshold or the upper limit of debts that we are putting on ourselves. When these are passed correct, then they will inform us, and we start preparations with the agreements and things that we may have to bring to Parliament. Mr. Speaker, the exact position, the exact level where Minister of Finance is at now will be a very difficult question for me to answer as I stand here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That was your last follow-up question, is that right? That was your second. Very well, then you're entitled to one more.
Honorable Minister, from your answer, it appears that we don't know actually when Nabdams are going to get the straight hospital services, because the negotiations, as you are saying, are still ongoing. But please, under the circumstances, have you considered innovative ways of providing these services? I'm saying the services are not that big, infrastructure. By doing extensions to the existing structure, I'm a medical practitioner myself. I've used my common fund to build a ward and a theater. Indeed, we need about 2 more or 3 more structures, common structures as extensions.
Honourable Member,
So have you considered that aspect, such that we don't have to wait for 4 or 5 years to get a district hospital before we can provide district hospital services? That is level C or D.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I already said that we have actually captured Nabdam in our 4-year capital investment plan. So at worst, within the 4 years, Nabdam will see a district hospital. provided you continue to vote for this side of the House to lead governance. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to inform my colleague that I have a program that I'm engaging in, visiting regions and facilities. I have done Central, some part of the North, some part of Brahafo, and some part of the Western region. I'm looking next to see some part of Upper East, if not all the places. I will rank Nabdam as one of the places I will visit, and I will go and see the health center or the place my colleague is talking about. Mr. Speaker, not until after that. It will be very difficult for me to speculate as to whether we are going to expand or we are going to put new places and whatever. But I would like to congratulate you for putting some part of your MPs, little monies you have, to try to do something in the facility. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. The next question is in the name of Dr. Market Nawaane, Nabdam.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask the Honorable Minister for Roads and Highways when work will start on the Asare, Zalelugo, Piolungo stretch of the road in the Nabdam district.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the background to that road is that Azonge Zarelugu Pelungo Road, as is described and as is known in our database, is a 7.2 kilometer feeder road located in the Nabdam district of the Upper East region. It is a gravel surface road with fair to poor surface condition. Mr. Speaker, the current program is that tenders for the upgrading of the road were received and opened on Tuesday, 12 December 2017. The contract was awarded on 2nd March 2018, and possession of site was given on 25th April 2018. The contractor was issued with notice to commence work on 22nd May 2018 for a period of 12 calendar months. The works shall be completed not later than 21st May 2019. Mr. Speaker, currently the contractors are in the process of mobilizing to site to commence work on this project. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member for Nabdam.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. It appears now it's not a promise, but really a contract has been awarded. Honorable Minister, I want to know whether it is still Ghanaian who is on the road or a new contractor.
Honorable Minister, who is the contractor?
Mr. Speaker, what is in my knowledge is that the road has been awarded. If you listen to my answer, it had been packaged or repackaged and awarded. And I do not have the answer with me, whether it's a new contractor or not, but the contractor's name is Trade Vision. But from the answer given, it appears that it's a new contractor which is on that road. new trade vision. So I would plead with you to work closely with the contractor since it's in your constituency and behind the scenes, let us carry out the conversation to see how the works are going on. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member.
Honorable Minister, it appears your answer is quite non-specific to me. If you take the statement that tenders for the upgrading of the road were received and opened on Tuesday, 12 December 2017, when you talk of the road upgradement, what is it up to, or where is it up to, or what is it about? The upgradement of the road.
Honorable Member, your question is not clear.
It is written there that the road is going to be upgraded. And I'm asking to what extent? What form of upgradement? Yes, what form of upgradement, or to what extent is the road going to be upgraded? It appears to me to be non-specific.
He has already answered that upgrading is a technical term. To another one, he has said that upgrading is a technical term, which means that the road will be made to...
Is it up to the seal, or is it just... Yes, or up to the seal, or is it
Honorable
concrete
Minister,
works, or
can
what
you
type of
explain to
agreement is
him...
he talking about?
Honorable Member, resume your seat. Can you explain to him what your technical term upgrading is?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, road could be at different stages. It could be at the earth stage, it could be at the gravel stage, whatever stage you find it. It could even be at the sub-base, or it could be at base, or it could be at primary level. But upgrading of a road means developing it through all the various stages, bringing it to a level that is acceptable, a level that is smooth, and a level that has received bitumen. And this particular road, we are developing it and upgrading it, enhancing it to bituminous level. Perhaps that will be acceptable to you. Thank you.
Honorable Dr. Mark Kett.
I think so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the maker of the statement. Mr. Speaker, after 25 years of medical practice in the country, I've had the opportunity to work at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, the Cape Coast Regional Hospital, and then the Dunkwao District Hospital, and finally ended up in private practice. With this sort of experience, I must say that what happened is a systemic failure, a failure of the whole system, because there's nothing like there are no beds in a hospital that runs an emergency. Indeed, during our time at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, at that time, that hospital, we used to call it the last stop. You don't come to Kolebu Teaching Hospital and we'll send you away. That is because even if you come and there's no bed, we'll put you on the floor. We'll put the mattress on the floor, and no matter how big, you are supposed to kneel down on the patient and examine the patient, get all your findings, and if you can take care of the patient, fine. If not, you can call your resident or you can call your specialist. So there was nothing like, the hospital being full. And after that, if there's the need for you to be transferred to a particular unit or a particular department or to a consultant, we do it. So I'm surprised to hear that one person has been sent to, different hospitals, and they get there, I don't know the type of examination that is carried out, who writes the referral to the next station. Because if you get to one station, the law is that you have to be examined. If there's a need for you to be referred to a higher level, it is done. So I'm surprised that somebody visits 5 or 6 hospitals and nobody, in fact, no doctor examines this patient, and the patient moves on until his untimely death. In fact, we have to, as a nation, we have to apologize to the relatives of the patient. This particular case, we need to investigate it. We need to set up a committee. Indeed, not only the parliamentary committee, but a committee of the Medical and Dental Council. They can also set up a committee to investigate this issue. There's the need for the hospital's regulatory authority to also come in, or the health facilities regulatory authority to also come in and see what is happening, because there is nothing like no bed in any hospital when it is related to an emergency. Unless you don't diagnose the emergency, once you diagnose that it's an emergency, there's nothing like there's no bed. I want to thank Mr. Speaker so that this matter is taken over by the appropriate authorities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, the maker of the statement.
And Zongo Development. Honorable Member for Nabdam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I rise to ask the Minister for Inner City and Zongo Development what projects he intends to undertake in Nangodi Zongo in the Nabdam district for the year 2018.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to state that the strategic policy priorities of government in relation to the Ministry of Inner City and Zongo Development are guided by the coordinated program of economic and social development policies of 2017 to 2024. These are upgrading inner cities, zongos, and slums, establishment of Zongo Development Fund to support the provision of critical infrastructure in education and training, health and sanitation, local businesses, and centers of culture, as well as improve security. Mr. Speaker, we also have taken into consideration African Union Agenda of 2063, a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. I'm adding my own mind. They will capture it by the answer. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I want to add some information for him. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we also took into consideration the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 11, making cities and human settlements safe, resilient, and sustainable. And of course, the 40-year National Long-Term Development Plan, goal number 3, build a safe, well-planned, and sustainable communities. Mr. Speaker, in line with these priorities, The mandate of the ministry is to formulate and oversee implementation of policies, programs, and projects to alleviate poverty and ensure that inner city and Zongo communities do not become areas of despair, difficulty, and social conflict, but should rather be safe, resilient, sustainably, and inclusively developed and transformed into a prosperous one. Mr. Speaker, the state of the inner city and Zongo communities reflects a developmental challenge related to poor housing, weak local economic development, limited prosperity, and high levels of social and economic vulnerability. Under the 2018 Action Plan and Budget of the Ministry, about 11 programs and projects have been outlined under the Inner City and Zongo Infrastructure Program, and 23 under the Inner City and Zongo Economic and Social Development Program. These programs are expected to deliver a range of interventions related to community drains, access roads, Bailey bridges, street lights, recreational parks, household and public toilets, institutional toilets, refuse management, water facilities, basic school rehabilitation, libraries, primary health infrastructure. Others include vocational skills training, business development training, culture and tourism promotion, and ethno-religious dialogue interventions. These interventions are expected to improve basic community infrastructure, provide incentives for residents to undertake housing improvements, and enhance the local economic development situation of the targeted areas. Right Honorable Speaker, in line with government bottom-up approach to development, the Ministry of Inner City and Zongo Development is undertaking a nationwide baseline and needs assessment in various Zongo communities to determine their priority development needs and target its interventions appropriately. So far, 479 Zongos in 5 regions have been visited, namely Bron Ahafo, Eastern, Central, Upper West, and Upper regions, including Nangodi Zongo community for that matter. In focus, group discussions held with opinion leaders in Upper East region, it emerged that the 3 priority development needs of the people in Nangodi Zongo are boreholes, Neem oil extraction factory, and English and Arabic basic school. Mr. Speaker, the ministry is currently assessing these needs and will determine with involvement of Nangodi Zongo community, which of these projects will have the highest impact and therefore a priority for implementation in the 2018-2019 fiscal year. In the second stage of this exercise, the ministry will continue with the Zongo community needs assessment in the remaining 5 regions, namely Greater Accra, Ashanti, Western, Volta, and Northern region. Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform you that His Excellency the President, in May 2018, appointed the Chief Executive of the Zongo Development Fund and his 2 deputies. Names I'll give to you: Baba Al-Hassan. The second is Baba Sadiq. And the third is Aisha Salifedagati. These are the deputies. Mr. Speaker, last week, specifically, let me finish my presentation. Last week, specifically on the 11th June 2018, His Excellency the President inaugurated 11-member governing board of the Zongo Development Fund. With this, work is expected to proceed in earnest in providing solutions to the myriad challenges facing the Zongo communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Mr. Speaker, from the Minister's response, I can deduce that 18 months down the lane, no project or program has been carried out. Now that the CEO has been appointed and the board is in place, how soon do we expect the rollout of the programs and projects under his ministry, under your ministry, such that the good people of Nabdam will begin to benefit from them?
Honorable.
Your mic. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, right from the outset, I said we had gone to carry out needs assessment. We don't want to decide the project to be given to you because we don't want a situation where we find ourselves in a situation where a goat is owned by two people. The fact is that we have identified 3 priority areas, but we need to sit down with you and by consensus to agree which will have much impact on the community, because the Zongo communities are many. Therefore, we must spread our portfolio and ensure that everybody gets what is needed immediately. I've already told you that we've been to 5 regions. 479 Zongo communities have been assessed. Definitely, we identify which project, but based on the consensus that will be reached, we'll do that as soon as possible. And I said within 2018-2019 fiscal year, the project will be done in your community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.